Hello everyone, how are you doing today? Oh, I didn't empty the jar. Let me empty the jar real quick and then we can start.
The tools of capitalism.
Thank you Sushi Mom for continuing your subscription. Thank you Devious Chillster for continuing your subscription. Thank you Sarson000 for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Thank all of you.
Funny about the tools of capitalism.
Oh, we're already at a fucking hype train. Jesus Christ, we're at level 1 of the hype train. God damn. I got the camera.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Ugh. Thank you for following also, Sarson000 and Nozo Titties.
That's right, capitalistic propaganda.
Let me just empty this jar and then we're good. That's not what I wanted.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Thank you, Honeybear Ghostly, for subscribing. Empty jar. Jar is empty. So, I hope you're all doing well today. My hair is almost all the way dry. So that's nice. Very curly. I love you too, chat. I'm not going Tox's hand and go see the model I'm making on Discord. Is it the Charisma Saves Discord or is it the other Discord? Yeah, I know you love me the mostest, Baha. I love you the mostest too. I'm looking for the model. It's under creative. Hold on. Is it the one that's like a D&D thing for, and it looks like a craggy like mountain or something? Is that the one you're talking about? Because that's the one that was posted today. It's pretty cool. You're at 50%. Of the level 2 hype train, by the way. Do I have still have the Prager U What If the Left One vid I sent you? They try so hard to vilify single-payer healthcare, decriminalize immigration, and the GND. It's hilarious. Oh, that's cool. It's a cool model. Very much so. I'll look and make sure I get that Prager U, because I have Prager U pulled up. Let me see. Prager U, what if the left wins? Something along those lines. Or if you want to link it to me again, that would be good. Oh yeah, this is like the Nazi guy. Yeah, we can take a look at that today too. I'm gonna have to find that Prager U video about if the left wins. The left. Why I left the left. The left ruins everything. Who's more radical, the left or the right? Who's more compassionate, the left or the right? The music is good. This is the Vaporwave channel on the thing.
Funny about the
Thank you, DM Trey, for subscribing. re-upping your subscription, rather. Only 20 seconds left in the hype train. If you're gonna renew your subscription, now's the time, folks. Or whenever, but this would help me get more hats. So far, we only completed level 1. So I'm at 1 hat.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
A level 2 hype train. Knob J with 500 bits. Congrats. We did it with only seconds left to spare. So we're at 2 hats. It's who's more radical? Okay. Let me turn this music off, and we can begin. This is only a 4-minute video from Prager U, so it should be a pretty breezy go-through. What's on my shirt? Shazam! It's, the fake genie movie with
There's nothing funny about
Sinbad.
the tools of capitalism.
Knob J with another 100 bits. I want to give the sub I won, and bingo to the life of Mal. Alright, if that's what you would like, I can do that right now. The life of Mal. Gift sub. Gift sub. Let me just cross your name off from the list of people I owe.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Okay. You should have been gifted a sub, Life of Mal. And whose was that? Who said they wanted theirs to? Knob J. Okay. Just give me a second to find where I am writing this down. There's one down. Right on. Dogs are the best. I actually like cats better than dogs, but fair enough. Did I see the 10th Doctor and River song box set that was announced by Big Finish? I did see that. I think it'll be good. I like the Adventures of the Diarrhea River song. Oh, Rain Dean, thank you for gifting 5 Tier 1 subs. Appreciate it. And we've gotten level 3 of the hype train done, so I owe you guys another hat. I like the Diarrhea River song audios a lot. If you like Doctor Who, check out the Big Finish audios. They're great.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Oof. 26% of the level 4 hype train with 4.5 minutes left.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
So let's see. Prager U. Who's more radical, the left or the right?
There are crazy positions on the far left and crazy positions on the far right. On the left, there are people who believe a man can get pregnant, that the world is going to end in a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions.
Okay, no one is saying on the left that the world is literally going to burst into a ball of fire within a decade. That's a straw man position. Global warming or climate change is a danger, and over the next century we are going to suffer immensely because of our inaction, because of assholes on the right. An extremist left position is to, like, abolish all private property, which is not something that anyone is advocating for seriously in the political realm. An extremist right position would be, we want an ethno-state, which, while I'd argue Donald Trump is not actively, like, saying he wants that, he certainly doesn't like brown people and enacts policies in that way. Leftist positions generally are things that will benefit the citizens as a whole, and extremist right wing will will benefit specific groups, racial groups, economic groups, whatever. Rain Dean with 1,500 bits. Good afternoon, Dark Mother. Have some bits and let's tear down some right-wing nonsense. Or right-wing morons. Thank you. 91% of the level 4 hype train. Holy shit. We can do it. 2.5 minutes left in the hype train. Yeah, the Pride emotes are great. They're fucking awesome. That was a good move by Twitch.
That the real purpose of the American Revolution was to preserve slavery. On the right, there are people who deny the Holocaust happened, who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races.
Oh, good. At least they're actually actively admitting that those are right-wing positions. Typically, they'd try and foist that off onto the left somehow. Vid screen? You're right. I keep forgetting to switch to the vid screen. Oof. Fucking up lately. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is not John Doyle, no. This man is too well kempt to be John Doyle, if I'm being honest. Thank you, Eye of Jade, for continuing your subscription. I appreciate that. Hype Train level 4 complete, I believe. Wow, we might actually get to level 5 this time. Fuck yeah. Nobj with 100 bits. Fancy transition, thank you. Archangel 13579 with 40 bits. DM Trey with a bunch of bits. Bardic Wisdom with 100 bits. Arenas 3 with 100 bits. Oh god, I'm almost out of bits. Hi everyone, and I don't know, I'll give a trans rights today. Fuck yeah, trans rights. We're at 24% of the hype train. Holy shit. A viewer is suing Twitch for 25 million for suggestive content citing Pokimane. That's gonna be a waste of money for them. DM Trey with more bits, thank you very much. Tara the Cat, thank you for continuing your subscription. Wow, I thought yesterday was the day a bunch of people's subs expired, but it must have been today. Because we're getting a ton of resubscriptions today. 41% of the hype train. We're almost there.
Funny about the tools of capitalism.
Bardic Wisdom with like a bunch of little bits and 100 bits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 116 bits. Thank you very much. 115, sorry. Pseudo Sapien, thank you for continuing your your sub. I love it. Thank you all so much. I'm glad you've enjoyed the content enough to continue subscribing. It really means a lot to me. I don't know how... I feel like I either say this way too much or not enough. Either way, thank you all. It means so much to me. You have no idea. Thank you, the Number Hunter, for subscribing with Twitch Prime.
There's nothing funny about
that you guys like care enough to come and hang out with me, and you have a good enough time that you want to support the channel. It's like super amazing. You have no idea. Hold on, I gotta text Jake.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Dead air. Thank you very much.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
That no one should pay taxes. But there's an important difference between these two extremes. The crazies on the right have no voice.
What?
There's nothing funny about
what are you talking about? They of course have a voice. What are you talking about? An extreme leftist position is not that people should get health care, because most countries who are developed have that, right? Extreme leftist positions have less representation than extreme rightist positions. Jesus.
They are shunned. They live mostly on the far fringes of the internet. The crazies on the left have a loud voice. They are celebrated. They live in the halls of Congress, in state legislatures, and in governors' mansions. In light of this distinction, it might be interesting to ask ourselves this question. Which group, the left or the right, is more radical? We can arrive at a common sense answer by posing this thought experiment. What would America look like if the left...
82% of the hype train were very close to getting me another hat.
Got everything it wanted, and what would America look like if the right got everything it wanted?
Here we go. Gonna be the most straw-manny arguments. They're gonna paint everything the left does as inherently destructive. It's going to be fantastic.
Let's start with the left. Taxes would go up on individuals and corporations to pay for more social programs.
It would go up on individuals who make a lot of money. Yes, that's how progressive tax systems works. And it would make companies like Amazon pay literally any taxes at all, because Amazon has paid no fucking taxes for a while now. It's very stupid. Thank you, Xandris, for gifting a sub. Gifting 2 subs. Thank you very much. And we made it to the last level 5 hype train. Thank you much.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Throw this hat on, the Hannah hat, over the other hats. There we go. 5 hats. We did it, folks. We did it. There's only 5 levels, but then if we get 100% over that, I put more hats on. But there's only 4 seconds left, so. Still, 5 hats. That's fucking awesome. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Shit. Thank you, Tom G, with your 100 bits. Have to go to work, but keep up the great work yourself. I'll watch back later. Thanks. I hope the VOD is all up and good, and you enjoy it when it's out. I hope this episode's good. Thanks.
Everything from universal childcare to free college tuition.
Oh no! Universal childcare and free education, so we have a populace that's educated and ready to be in the modern workforce? Oh no!
Many on the left call for income taxes as high as 70%.
On the highest bracket. Do you understand how marginal income tax rates work? You don't just tax all of your income at the same rate once you get above a certain point. You have these margins, marginal tax rates. So the first 30,000 or the first, I don't remember exactly what it is, but the first whatever amount in the United States is taxed at, I don't remember if it's very low or none at all, up to like $12,000 or $15,000. After that, it goes up to, I don't know what the tax rates are today. But let's, for instance, say, like, I don't know, 10%, and that amount is taxed at 10%. And then, as you make more over that, it gets taxed slightly higher. And then maybe once you're making millions of dollars a year or whatever, at a certain point, you get up to that 70%. At its height, the highest marginal tax rate in United States history was 90%. And it applied to one person in the country, and it was John Rockefeller. And that was when the country... It was in like the 40s, the 50s, around the time that a lot of Republicans will be like, I want to get back to the good old days. That's when marginal tax rates were the highest at the higher tax brackets. Because, as it turns out, in order to have a functioning society, the wealthy need to pay their fair share. And in a country that uses progressive tax rates, which are the best way to go about things if you're going to work in this like capitalistic taxable income system, people who make buco bucks should put money back into the system that helped them get wealthy. It's necessary to continue the wheels of government running. Jesus Christ.
Private health insurance would be abolished.
No, it wouldn't. Again, there are plenty of countries who have public health care, but you can also, if you'd like, get extra private healthcare insurance. All that is insured in terms of public healthcare is that if you have a medical emergency, or if you would like to get some procedure done that you need to have done, whatever, your medications that you need, it's covered. If you want to have cosmetic surgery, that shit isn't covered. But if you wanted to get some kind of extra insurance to go and pay for, like, optional surgeries, you can go and do that. That's completely fine. No one can stop you. And by the oh, thank you, Koya Tree, for continuing your subscription through July. Oh god, I lost my train of thought. Basically, as long as the public health care is a thing, it's good for everyone because it keeps people from falling through the cracks and going broke and bankrupt due to medical emergencies or medications that they need. But on top of that, if you'd like to spend money to get private insurance or take the money you've saved by not having to pay for your healthcare insurance premiums every month, you can then save that money for whatever you want, whether it's extra surgeries if you want to get some kind of plastic surgery or whatever.
The government would provide all healthcare services.
Oh no! Everyone gets healthcare? Think of the children!
Everyone in the medical field, from doctors, nurses, and administrators, would be government employees.
Oh no! Government employees who have some of the best unions in the country? Oh no!
Americans would pay for this government healthcare through much higher taxes.
Which would still be cheaper than the premiums you pay to your private insurance company, because that insurance company is not operating as a scheme to get you well. They're operating as a scheme to get their shareholders rich. That's how private companies work. A private company, regardless of what it is not there to sell you the thing they're selling you. They're there to make a profit off of the thing they're selling you. So if you have a public healthcare system, you cut out the middlemen who are trying to profit off the sickness of other people, and therefore you can provide healthcare at cost, right? Because that would be healthcare that exists solely to provide a benefit to those who pay into the tax system, right? It's not there for a bunch of asshole investor class people to sit back, kick their feet up, do nothing, provide nothing to society, and make a profit because they are already born on third base. Stupid.
Illegal immigration would be decriminalized.
Oh no, allowing the brown people into the country? We can't allow that for some reason. It's almost like people on the right are pretty fucking racist.
It would still be illegal to enter the country without proper documentation, but no one who made it into the U.S. would be prosecuted for doing so.
Oh no, we can't lock up children in cages? How will I get my wank material then? You fucking sickos. What is wrong with you?
Illegal immigrants would also receive free healthcare, free education, and free housing.
No, that's not how anything works. What are you talking about? If we had a public healthcare system, basically anyone who isn't paying into taxes, whether it be children or the elderly or whatever, would in effect be benefiting from that system, but that's fine. I don't care. If someone needs healthcare, I'd like them to get it. I don't care if they've paid taxes into the system. I think they should. If they're working and they're making an income, I think everyone should. But if you're not and you have a disease or an emergency, you should still get yourself treated because you're a human being and you deserve to live.
The Green New Deal would be adopted. Hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies for wind and solar power would be added to the federal budget.
Oh no! Subsidies for power outside of coal and gasoline? The horror! We already give tons of subsidies to energy industries in the United States to try and keep costs down. Of course, it doesn't entirely work because in terms of like the industries of coal and gas, you can then just treat those subsidies as a given because you have lobbyists making sure that you get them every year, and therefore it can just be sort of written down as part of the budget without having to actually consider it in terms of making your product cheaper. But the point is, these things would still be good to give to renewable energy because regardless of what you think about global warming, climate change is a fucking thing. It is. But whatever. Even if you want to be an idiot and say you don't believe it's the case, oil is still a non-renewable resource. Oil is a non-renewable resource. So at some point, not only for the environment, which we need to take care of because we live in the environment, and if it dies, we die. We also need to figure out ways of getting energy outside of what we've been doing for the past century or so, which is getting oil and refining it into gasoline or whatever, right? On top of that, there are all the political stuff that goes along with oil, invading the Middle East, the trillions of dollars that costs, doing business with Saudi Arabia despite all of their awful human rights violations. These are all things that could be mitigated or solved by switching to renewable energies, right? Okay.
Drilling for fossil fuels, the current source of 80% of our energy, would be sharply curtailed or eliminated altogether.
Oh no! Me like the oil, though. Why? Why do you have an emotional attachment to a fucking fuel source? Fuck off with that shit.
So would nuclear power.
What? Nuclear power? I think we should have more investment in nuclear power. Nuclear power is a great thing. More nuclear power, please.
As a result, consumers' electric bills would be much higher.
Source? What's your source on that? What's your source? On what are you basing that fact?
Reparations would be paid for the past injustice of slavery.
Oh no! Not making up for the 300 so years of slavery.
How it would be paid and exactly to whom is not clear.
Oh my goodness. No one ever asks how is it going to be paid when we spend trillions of dollars on war, but when we actively try and make amends for the years and years of systematic injustice, how are we gonna pay for this? I don't know. How do we pay for anything in this country? We just fucking do. We just do. Ideally, it would be paid with the tax money that would be increased. The revenue would be increased because we'd fix the tax laws. You already mentioned this, by the way. You mentioned the raising of the tax rates for corporations and rich people. So this is a bad faith argument because you know the answer.
Legally acquiring a gun would become much more difficult. College debt would be canceled.
Oh no, people can go to school? We can't have them get educated. If people are allowed to become educated, they won't be right-wing. Uh-oh.
Those who had already paid for college would get nothing.
Yep. Just because you got fucked over by the system, if your response to getting fucked over by the system, by the way, is to, when someone brings up a way, is to fix it so people in the future will not get fucked by the system, if your response is, well, I got fucked by the system, they should too, then you're an asshole. You're a fucking monster. You should know better. You went through getting fucked by the system. Shouldn't you agree and say, yes, I would like future people to not get fucked by the system? What is this kindergarten thinking that, oh, I didn't get help, so no one should? Fuck you! You selfish prick!
Transgender women, biological men who identify as women,
Oh, God.
would be allowed to compete against women in sports.
I don't have a lot of opinions on the sports thing because I'm not a sports person, nor am I a medical doctor, but more or less, my opinion on it stands as, if you've been on hormones for 2 years or more, and they test you and make sure that you're falling within those hormone limits, I don't think it matters that much. I really don't. Because estrogen hinders the amount you're able to, like, build muscle, right? Just like a cis woman.
That's right, capitalistic propaganda.
Thank you to Dark Phoenix 1682 for following.
America's military budget would be slashed by 25 to 50%.
Oh no, because it's going to such great use now? No.
Speech codes would be enforced throughout American life. And that's just...
Such as? Do you have an example? Do you have any reason to believe that this would be the case? Because you have a First Amendment right to speak. But there are consequences for that speech. Like if your employer fires you because you publicly went online and started calling people racial slurs. How is that wrong, right? No one should have to engage with you in a business deal, whether that's be through employment, being a contractor, whatever. No one is advocating for dumb racists who use the N-word to literally be put in prison. It's just that, hey, if you express those opinions, it speaks poorly to your character. And if you have a poor character, don't expect other people to want to associate with you.
Just a partial list. Now let's ask what would happen if the right got what it wanted.
Oh God, here we go.
Income taxes would be cut.
That's a bad thing. It's fine to cut income taxes for people who can't afford it, but if you cut income tax for the wealthy who already have more money than they can spend in 10 lifetimes, you're basically just helping them get a high score in capitalism with no benefit to anyone, not even them, because people like that have a wealth addiction, and it's not good for them, okay? So stop trying to suck dick and lick boot for billionaires who do not care about you.
Capital gains taxes would be cut.
Capital gains should be taxed at a higher rate. If you're making money and it's your job to be an investor and make money off of things, then that is your income. It should be taxed as income. You shouldn't just be a fucking venture capitalist that gets taxed at a lower rate because you don't work a real job.
Corporate taxes would be cut.
Bad. Very, very bad. Are you going to cut Amazon's taxes from 0 to giving them $70 billion a year? What the fuck?
And those cuts would be made permanent. All regulations that make doing business unnecessarily difficult and don't protect public health would be repealed. The issue of abortion would be sent back to the states for each state to decide its own abortion rules.
That's bad. That's very bad. That's not okay. The fact that you think this is a good thing is fucking ridiculous. Women have the right to decide if they would like to carry a pregnancy to term or not. You do not get to dictate that shit. It's none of your fucking business.
For itself. Many more charter schools would be open.
Charter schools are bad. Don't use charter schools. Put money into the public educational system and stop funding schools based on property taxes.
And it would become much easier to fire bad teachers.
He's talking about getting rid of the teachers' union, which, yeah, there are problems within any union, theoretically at least, but no, you should not get rid of people's right to unionize. You should just make rules in terms of how and when they're allowed to fire people. Abby, my dudes, thank you for gifting a sub.
In order to vote, citizens would need to present a valid ID.
Why? Why? Who cares? Voter fraud is not a fucking thing that happens almost at all. And frankly, the ones who have been caught in 2016, for instance, were Trump voters. Voter fraud is just not a thing that happens. It isn't.
With Mexico would be secured.
And hey, you know what? I'm even on board if you want people to get some kind of ID. But if you want to do that, you need to make it a new kind of free ID that everyone can get via mail. Or they can walk into their local Secretary of State or DMV and get one for free. Otherwise, it's effectively a poll tax, and it's unconstitutional. Thank you, Miss Kays, for continuing your subscription.
The only way to enter the United States would be through designated border crossings. In order to qualify for welfare assistance, you would have to prove you could not work.
That's already how it works. Do you think you just go to the welfare office and say, I would like one welfare, please? And they go, here you go. No. My mom, who, I don't talk to at this point anymore, unfortunately. But that's on her. She applied for, oh god, I don't even know what it was. Some social program, whatever. And she's been fighting it for like 2 years because they won't give it to her. Now, I don't know if she deserves it or not. That's not on me to decide. But the point is, people are often denied when they do need it. It's not a case of a lot of people who don't need it getting it, right?
The healthcare system would be open to free market reforms.
The free market is what we've had for all of fucking American history, long before the Affordable Care Act was passed, and guess what? It's only gotten worse over time. The free market is not some magic wand you wave to solve all issues, you fucking idiots.
For example, insurance companies could sell policies across state lines.
How do people think this is going to solve the issue? At best, you would get a race to the bottom style healthcare where someone will be like, I'll give you healthcare for $50 a month, but it only covers if you're literally dying. That's not good. I don't want people to get cheap, shitty healthcare that doesn't cover anything. I want people who are in need to be able to walk into a hospital and get help when they need it. Period.
Students in elementary school would recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of each school day.
Okay, first of all, most schools still already do this, and it's fucking weird. We should not be making children say this weird propaganda chant every day about how great their country is. If you want to teach American history, that's great, that's fine, that's good. But to, like, put this weird, emotional, like, propaganda thing at the beginning of each day, it's creepy as fuck.
So what can we conclude from our experiment? It's not hard to figure out. If the right got everything it wanted, the government would get much smaller.
Except for the military, which of course is the biggest for some reason. Hold on, I gotta pull my dashboard up on my phone. There we go.
The citizen would have more freedom. If the left got everything it wanted, the government would get much bigger. The citizen would have less freedom.
No, the citizen would not have less freedom. They would be able to go and get healthcare when they need to. They'd have the freedom to get the education they want. Under your system, you basically say, fuck you! Enjoy the capitalistic fiefdom, peasants.
You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty.
Committed to individual liberty, unless you're not a white landowning Protestant man. Do we need to talk about the 300-some years of slavery? Do we need to talk about the fact that women didn't have the right to vote until the 1920s? Do we need to talk about the fact that poll taxes were a thing, and that even when people who were African American got the right to vote, they were often kept from doing so? Do we need to talk about the fact that every president except one has been a white dude? Seriously?
You're only radical if you want to
genocide of Native Americans. I almost forgot. That's a big one.
Fundamentally transform America into something it's never been. Which country do you want to live in? I'm Will Witt for Prager University.
I would like to live in the left-leaning country that you described, please. I would like to push that button. Drinsomniac, thank you for following. Oh boy, what else?
Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free,
fuck you, PragerU. Support a new video. Let me look at their thing. PragerU, donate. Oh my god, their minimum donation button is $35. Holy fuck. You can, lower it, I think. But, the fact that their minimum, recommended donation is $35 and then it goes to $100, $250, $500, and you can make this a monthly payment? What the fuck? Nasty. That's some nasty shit. Let's see what else we got. Sorry, I'll try not to click this a bunch. Clickety click 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 click. Who is Booker T. Washington? I don't know if I want to see PragerU's video on Booker T. Washington. What does separation of church and state mean? Oh no. Elon Musk. Americans shouldn't give up their liberties so easily. PragerU, Elon Musk. Name a more iconic duo. Sushi Mom 10 has something for me to click on. Let me take a look. Stupid cop. Elon Musk told Joe Rogan Americans shouldn't give up their liberties so easily. He's talking about, wearing masks and not allowing places to open during the COVID-19 outbreak.
In general, I think that's we should be concerned about anything that's a massive infringement on our civil liberties.
Yeah. It's an infringement of my civil liberties not to force my employees to come in and get sick to make my shitty cars.
Yes. So it's you got to put a lot of weight on that. A lot of people died to.
Thank you, Wag Roads 13 for subscribing
and fight for the democracy that we have, and we should treasure that and not give up our liberties too easily. I think we probably.
Elon Musk fanboys, I suggest you reconsider. Let's see what else we got. The bravery deficit. Oh, gosh.
Do you watch Fox News with your finger on the back button in case someone enters the room?
This is what I don't get about people like this. If you find yourself doing something so shameful that you feel the need to hide it, should you consider maybe not doing that thing? Is there a reason? At least explore why it's considered kind of fucked up for you to believe this thing or to watch this thing. At least think it out. Thank you, WagRoads13, for gifting a sub.
Do you methodically clear your browser history to erase all evidence of Prager U videos? Do you hide your subscription to the Ben Shapiro podcast? Or, and perhaps most dangerous of all, are you
Oh God, it's Ruben. Fucking Ruben.
Afraid of getting caught watching the Rubin Report, which is hosted by the very scary but quite dapper Dave Rubin? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then you're in the political closet and it's time to come out. Here's the good news. If you currently reside in the United States of America, you live in the freest country in the history of the world.
Oh my God, I hate when they do this weird freedom jack-off. On what basis do you think that Americans are more free than, let's say, someone in the UK or Germany? I'd love to know. Because, like, I could get a medical emergency that'll just ruin my life. That's not very free, is it? I can't get education because it's prohibitively expensive, right? That's not very free. Do you just mean the fact that you can own a gun? Because you can own a gun in Canada. It just has to be for hunting purposes, right? Like, on what basis are you alleging that America is, quote, the freest country in the history of the world? That's an insane, meaningless statement, as if freedom is this, like, generic scale that you could measure things on.
Beyond some basic limitations, you can do whatever you want and, with hard work, become whatever it is you want to be.
As long as you can afford to go to school, or get in debt. Hope you have a good enough credit score, fuckers. Ha ha ha.
Pretty great, ain't it? So why the long face? Because you know that something is out of whack. You really don't feel free to say what you want, or share your true thoughts on Facebook.
Right, because you're concerned about the consequences, because you're aware that what you're doing is not the majority opinion, and not only is it not the majority opinion, because of course, you shouldn't just go with the crowd all the time. It's an opinion that is often steeped in fear, hatred, profound ignorance. Like, there's a reason people don't want to talk about this, and by the way, there's tons of right-wing assholes on Facebook. I don't go on Facebook anymore. It's a nightmare. Also, there's a lot of people on there who don't know I'm trans, and I'm not exactly going to come out on there. So, not worth. There are plenty of right-wing assholes who are open about it, and I'd imagine there are some people on the right who don't feel the need or want to talk about it because they've seen other people on the right talk about this stuff online and see that they get their ass handed to them left and right basically all the time, and they don't want that to happen to them, so.
Or even associate with those you'd like to. And why is that? I'll tell you why. Because
Thanks, Zerwin. Thanks for coming.
there's a mass affliction spreading throughout the Western world. It's called the bravery deficit. People, good people like you, are afraid to say what they think. And there's little wonder. Believe that men can't give birth? Congrats, you're a transphobe.
Again, because you're completely disregarding that trans men exist. Trans men who still have uteri intact. It's a thing. It's literally a thing. You're just wrong.
Want people to keep more of what they
Thank
earn
you,
because they know how to
Macaline, for
spend it better
following.
than the government does? Bravo, you're a greedy capitalist.
You're an idiot, and you might be a greedy capitalist, but really, most people who do this, like, right-wing corporate bootlicking aren't even really capitalists. They're working-class people who go to bat for capitalists because of all the propaganda they've been fed. Like, if you don't own a business, if you don't employ people and exploit them for your labor, you're not really a capitalist, are you? Just saying.
Understand that the gender pay gap is because men and women often choose different professions and different hours, not because of rampant sexism? Hooray, you're a misogynist.
Again, kind of a misreading of what the gender pay gap actually is. If you see modern versions of this where people talk about the gender pay gap, for one thing, even controlled for these things, there is a discrepancy. But despite that, the larger discrepancy that comes out of people choosing different careers can often be stemmed back to the fact that women are steered away from STEM careers. Nowadays, it's a little bit better because there are outreach programs and stuff, but it'll take a long time to get things, like, within parity between the genders.
Take the wrong side of any hot-button issue, and your reputation, your friends, and your job can all be lost in an instant.
Oh no, I was bigoted and I got fired. Why can't I be a monster without consequence? Own up to your opinion, man. Shit's gonna happen. People won't want to associate with you.
You will likely never get a chance to confront your accusers, most of whom are anonymous. And you may feel forced to issue a faux apology to save yourself, which, by the way, it usually won't.
Why are you assuming that it has to be a faux apology? You should actually feel bad if you do something wrong. Why are you automatically assuming you're in the right and whatever apology you make is going to be fake? Jesus, Dave.
The understandable temptation is to think that this politically correct madness will soon end, just die out on its own.
Politically correct, or as I like to call it, not being a complete cunt face.
Well, it won't. Activists and their mainstream media allies like the New York Times and CNN, propaganda outlets like Media Matters and the Southern Poverty Law Center.
You're on a Prager U video, so maybe pot, meat, kettle, don't call each other black.
And your local university will make sure of that. Big tech with its control of search algorithms, its shadow banning and deboosting are also in on the game.
Oh no, Google's trying to make factual information go to the top of search results. How dare they not allow me to spread my propaganda effectively? Drat, Google, you've won again.
If you're one of the people who believes that if you just remain quiet, that things will get better, well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're a frog in a slowly boiling pot. And it doesn't.
Oh no, the boiling water is people who look and act different than me getting rights. Fuck off.
Doesn't end well for the frog. So what can you do? Believe it or not, the solution is not that hard. Step 1, think for yourself. Step 2, say it out loud. Just because a former bartender says the world is going to end in 12 years
that's Senator Bartender to you, bitch.
Because of climate change doesn't mean it's true. Doomsdayers have been saying the same thing.
What is with these people on the right shitting on AOC for being a bartender at one point? Aren't they supposed to be the party that's like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Wouldn't she be the one that they should be like, look at this person who worked as a bartender and worked all the way up to a senator? But instead they're like, she's just a bartender. It kind of throws the mask off and shows that they don't give a fuck about working class people. What they care about is bootlicking the wealthy. Very strange.
For decades, and we're still here. Just because a filmmaker says we should model our healthcare system on Cuba's doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Are you guys still talking about fucking Sicko? Didn't that come out like 15 years ago? Jesus Christ. As if that's the only time. That was before Obamacare was even a thing. Holy shit. Are you seriously thinking that Michael Moore is the person who has the strongest argument you could possibly argue against in terms of healthcare in America? Because that's a ridiculous point. That's a straw man, basically. Michael Moore is kind of a fucking asshole. But, like, why are you using him? Specifically because he's a very polarized person. A lot of people don't like him, even on the left.
Would you rather have heart surgery in Houston or in Havana? And just because a career...
I'd have to look into who has better heart surgeons. I'm pretty sure Cuba has pretty good medical technology because Castro was, like, big on that shit, and he wanted to have, like, really good medical stuff. Honestly, in terms of expense, Havana. I would like to go to Havana because they won't charge me so much that I'll have to go into bankruptcy and lose my house.
Politician is a millionaire with 3 houses who rails against the rich doesn't make him a hypocrite. Oh, wait, in that case, it actually does.
Jesus Christ. I've never actually looked up this Bernie Sanders 3-house thing. Let's take a look. Does Bernie Sanders have three mansions? Is this mansion one of Bernie Sanders' homes? No, that's not exactly what I'm looking for, though. Politico, PolitiFact. I'm looking for like a relatively. Bernie Sanders just ended his presidential bid. Here's what we know about the finances. One of the least wealthy U.S. senators who's made $1.75 million in book royalties. So he's one of the least wealthy senators. Let's see. National Review. I'm trying to find like a reasonable source for this. One was inherited. Yeah. Xandris, thank you for continuing your subscription. 3 houses of Bernie Sanders. Ugh, I don't know what prop he is. Bernie Sanders, a Democratic candidate for the 2020 presidential election, has recently purchased a 3rd home with his wife, Jane, a self-described Democratic socialist, the 77. Also, by the way, a Democratic socialist doesn't say you're not allowed to own property. You're allowed to own property, right? That's fine. So it's not hypocritical. A self-described Democratic socialist, the 77-year-old Sanders has nonetheless been proving his understanding of capitalism in recent years. Let us look at the 3 homes in Bernie's modest but respectable real estate portfolio. The new lakeside holiday home. Bernie Sanders is a senator from Vermont, so it's no wonder that his house is in his home state. The $575,000 home sits alongside a lake in Champlain Islands in a tiny North Hero, Vermont. The Sanders family will enjoy 500 feet of lake beachfront. Thank you to Deep Southern Man for hosting. Reportedly vacationed many times in the area, so that's like a $575,000 home, which is quite expensive, at least relative to where I live. But again, housing prices are pretty cheap in Michigan because we're basically the south of the north. Burlington Colonial Home, and I think it would help if I saw pictures, right? So this just looks like a house. This just looks like a house. They all kind of just look like houses. Some of them are on the large side, but they're not fucking mansions, right? Incredibly fucking misleading, Prager U, as always. Jesus Christ.
The point is, perhaps your most important job as a human being is to stand up for the things you believe in. Don't take the path of least resistance. Be better than those who would silence you, deplatform you, and mob you.
I wonder how many people watched this video and immediately went on a racist tirade on Twitter to be like, I'm bold and brave. Look at how brave I am.
How? Just stop being afraid. The mob depends on the fact that everyone is scared to say what they think. Don't give them that power. All of the successes of America and the Western values that gave birth...
Western values! You hear that? Sounds like a dog whistle.
Birth to America are being eroded as we speak. We can't just blame Hollywood, the media, and the political establishment any longer. It's time to look in the mirror.
Yet, you're still making videos where you do that all the time. Very strange.
Think of the bravery of your grandparents and your ancestors before them who undoubtedly had it far worse than you do today.
You're not living off the land or fighting in World War II. Stop bitching. Fuck off with that shit. Also, how old are my grandparents were born after World War II. You're talking about people's, like, great-great-grandparents, or they'd have to be, like, a generation older than me. So, like, my parents' grandparents.
If they were brave, then you can be brave, too.
And they also ended up coming home and the New Deal getting passed and, like, prosperity happening, although segregation was still a thing. Like... Let's not just valorize entire groups of people. Not a great idea, generally.
It's time to come out of the closet, the political one.
Thank you,
You are the solution to the bravery
J512
deficit.
for following.
So what are you waiting for? I'm Dave Rubin, author of Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in an Age of Unreason, for Prager University.
Did Dave Rubin ever find someone to burn his book? Because it's pretty obvious he named his book that specifically to get, like, try and find someone who did it to be like, haha, look at the left, the tolerant left burning my book. I don't remember if he ever actually found anyone who did, though. Jake and I talked about it briefly because we're doing the Dave Rubin book review right now, and we're like, no, that's exactly what he wants. He wants people to burn his fucking book. Oh god, Hamlet. Why are they talking about Hamlet? White leftists act like racists. Yeah, uh-huh. If you hate Israel, you're no friend. Oh, Christ, not touching that with a 10-foot pole. That's for sure. Medicare for all will destroy healthcare. Yikes. Okay, let's take a break from Prager U. Let's see, we got Elliot Hulse, John Doyle, strong, successful male, girl defined, and a COD daily. Did Dave really write his book, or did he get a shitty ghostwriter? I'm not, let me take a look. Don't burn this book. Amazon. Written by, it just says Dave Rubin. If he got a ghostwriter, then I'm not aware of it, but it's possible. Who knows? Girl defined. Alright, let's do some girl defined. Christian girl's biggest fears with being single is finding the one actually a thing. Single Christian girl's biggest fears. Let's take a look at this.
What's up, sisterhood?
What's up, girls? It's time for Girl Defined. I hate this. I hate it. Maybe my heart is just charcoal, black and dead. But God, do I hate the affect of like, oh my God, it's time for a YouTube video! Yay! I hate it. I hate it so much.
So excited to be here with you today because this video is based primarily on stuff that you all had to say. I actually took to Instagram yesterday maybe and did a bunch of questions and wanted to get your thoughts on singleness, biggest fears with being single.
Those overalls give like mooey fucking bi or like lesbian energy though, that's for sure.
What not to say to
stop appropriating our culture, god damn it.
Singles, that's actually coming out soon, that video. You all had some great stuff to say. Also some really funny things. Isn't it amazing the things that people will tell you, whether you're single or not, and the advice that people will give you? Sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's kind of weird and sometimes it's just crazy or like not even true. So we'll get to that on the next video, but today I want to be talking about Christian girls' biggest fears with being single. I was single for a long time and I had a lot of my own fears and I'm going to share about that later, but I wanted to jump into...
Yeah, she does kind of look like a big toddler with like her hair up like this and wearing the overalls. Yeah.
To all of the different fears that you all said. So I asked you, what are your biggest fears with being single? And you all sent in a ton of answers, and so I can't read them all, but I'm gonna read them.
I don't know how I feel about these. Do I want to say this? I'm not commenting on like her looks as an ad hominem or anything, but if something's weird's kind of going on with her eyebrows, and I don't have a lot to speak about because I know how I look, but like, I don't know, her eyebrows look weird. They're like too thick in the center, and they're like, they seem to like, they're almost like a Nike swoosh. She has Nike swoosh eyebrows. And, I don't know. She needs to get someone else to do the pluck job next time.
Bunch of them. Before we get there, though, I want to show you this new guide, 5 strategies for thriving as a single girl. And so this is a downloadable product, and it's basically an entire guide to help you thrive as a single. And this is something...
As a single... Jesus Christ.
Now we're giving away to our patrons exclusively over on patreon.com.
This is literally like 4 sheets of paper you printed off with a color printer and then stapled. What? Just send people a PDF, you weirdo.
And this is something that we give to you as just a way of saying thank you for joining the Patreon family. Thank you for supporting this channel. Thank you for helping us to continue doing what we're doing.
right,
So if you or you know someone is single, this is definitely something.
Critical
that's gonna work.
Canadian,
5
thank you for
strategies
following.
thriving as a single, and the way that you can get this is just by heading on over to patreon.com/girldefined or clicking the link below.
I understand using the term "a single" because people will talk about you being in a couple, but like, it comes off as super weird and almost condescending to me. Like, oh, you're all right, girl. You're just out there being a single. Like, Jesus Christ. Can we not define people by the fact that they happen to not have a partner?
And on the first of the month, or the first week of the month, you're gonna be sent this, and you'll also get access to all of the month's previous free products. Every month we release a new product for our patrons, and you get it free of charge by saying thank you for supporting us on a monthly basis. And you also get access to all of the previous products. So anything that we've released on Patreon for free, you get it, which is so
I did not talk about Sargon yet. He'll come up in a bit.
awesome. But this next month coming up is the 5 strategies for thriving as a single girl. If you want this, go ahead and join the fam. I'm also so excited because coming up on July 31st and August 1st, right here in San Antonio, Texas, where I'm sitting, we are going to have the Girl Defined conference. And
Okay, I'm gonna skip her shilling for her conference.
So-
And it's her channel. It's her right to shill for her conference, but I don't want to hear about it.
so pumped to roll my deck soon. What's your grade? Always be single. That was my single. I really hope to see you at this year's conference. Now, here's what some of you said.
Can you imagine paying money to go spend time to listen to her and the other girls speak? I don't know their names. I really don't. They kind of mesh together in my head because they're both blonde and bubbly, and I don't know. Whatever. But can you imagine spending your hard-earned money on a conference where you're going to go get dating and life advice from these people? It's fucking insufferable enough in the form of a free YouTube video, much less an actual trip somewhere.
Conference. I really hope to see you at this year's conference.
Bethany and something else? Yeah, okay.
Now, here's what
Kristen,
some of you
Bethany
said
and Kristen.
in regards to being single. I said, what's your biggest fear with being single? This is what some of you said. Never getting married.
Choking. Your biggest fear when being single should be choking at home alone and no one's there to give you a Heimlich maneuver. That's a valid fear if you're single.
That I will never be able to connect in a dating relationship. That I'll always be single. That was my big fear. That I won't have the opportunity to live some of my dreams or create my own family. That I can't control the timing. Isn't that a tough one? Like, that I won't find anyone who loves me. These are hard. These are hard to cope with. That I won't be able to share my life.
I know you can do it on yourself by falling onto a chair, but I don't trust myself to do that. Baja, you gotta up that upper body strength. If I'm ever choking on a chicken wing, you gotta get that thing out of me. Okay?
With someone. That I will have to live my life alone. Being the odd one out in my age group. Others thinking that I need to find someone. Totally. Like, if you don't have someone, then it's like always on the lookout for you, and maybe you're like, oh, but I'm happy here. I'm serving God, and I'm doing what I feel like He wants me to right now. You know, people will treat me differently or not trust me to do the things that married people can do. Very well put. Never have.
I know you have more body strength than me, but I don't know how strong my ribs are, and you gotta just crush them for the Heimlich. So, no, wait, I'm thinking of CPR. I hope no one has a medical emergency around me because I'm not very good at anything involving anything that isn't running my mouth.
Having sex and never being able to have those God-given desires met. Feeling empty inside. Facing financial and life decisions alone. That's a big one. Like big financial decisions, big life decisions, not...
Okay, here's the thing though. If you have financial decisions to make and you are in a couple, yes, it's great and you should talk about these things together, but you should be able to, as an adult, whether you're a woman or a man or non-binary, whatever you happen to be, you should be able to sort of navigate that. Like, is it difficult? Oh, sure, adulthood's a fucking bitch, don't get me wrong, but like whether you're with someone or not should not determine your ability to go about financially navigating the real world. Like, that's just like a thing. Don't get me wrong, I I fucked up, and Baja's helped me out, but, like, you should be able to have plans for if that doesn't happen, right? You should be able to navigate these things as an individual, whether or not you're in a couple. Go.
Not having that person where you feel like y'all can figure that out together. That's hard. Being lonely and not having children. Being the last single girl in my singles group.
Oh, God. Okay, not having a kid. For one thing, even if you're single, if you really wanted to have a kid, you could get, like, a one of those sperm donation places to give you, like, a cumsicle or whatever they do, and impregnate. You could adopt a kid if you're financially stable and have a good home, although it's probably less likely that you're going to get it as compared to a couple, because that's kind of how adoption agencies in the United States work. But if you're financially stable and you have a good home, it's entirely possible, especially if you're able to make enough money to get help that you can still have a kid. So that's not the end-all be-all anyway. You shouldn't, like, make that... If you want a kid, I get it. But, like, if you can't, learn to be okay with that, too.
There are more, like, there were hundreds of answers submitted on this. Those were just some of them, and I feel like they very well represented how a lot of Christian singles feel. I know I experienced a lot of those feelings as a single, and it can be hard. The truth is that every season of life, being single or any other season, definitely has its challenges, and we are not trying to downplay that, diminish that, or act like that's not true, because there are challenges, and we have to work through those. It's hard. I remember when I was single, my biggest fear was that I would be single forever. And so that was my big struggle, is that in this moment, Bethany, back then when I was single, I would say, like, in this moment I'm single, and so I can't ever imagine getting married. I can't ever imagine meeting someone. And I would just project into my future that I would be single forever, and then I would worry about what my entire life would look like, and I would struggle.
See, the reason you struggle with this, though, and don't get me wrong, people do have this issue where they, like, if they're single and they're really, really lonely, they get into this headspace where they can't see themselves actually being with anyone ever. This is a problem people have. Persquar82, thank you for following. But the problem that Girl Defined and people, I'm just going to call them Girl Defined. This one's Girl, the other one's Defined.
Capitalism.
Thank you to Nakaleen for subscribing. They define so much of their life, because the channel is called Girl Defined, and the way that they define what being a girl or woman should be is about being a wife, being a mother. Those are the things that define womanhood for them. And because of that, if they are unable to be in a relationship, they feel that they're not only failing at looking for someone to be with in a partnership, but they feel they're failing as women, which exacerbates the issue of being single. If you're single, that's worrisome to some people. People like to be in relationships, at least a lot of people, not everyone. But when you're also attaching almost the entirety of your value and identity as a person to this concept, it's gonna create not only more issues with being single, but it's gonna create tons of issues when you do start dating people, because you've put so much of the onus of, like, I need to be happy. This relationship is supposed to make me happy because this is who I am as a person. I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be a good girlfriend and then become a wife and become a mother. You've put so much of who you are as a person onto that it can create problems for that relationship. So it's just bad overall. Jeez.
Because I was projecting all of these fears into the future that weren't even a reality yet, and then I was trying to carry the load, and I felt so weighed down sometimes by all those fears, and I was worrying about stuff that honestly, well, didn't become my reality, but could have never become my reality. So I was almost like trying to carry a burden that God wasn't actually asking me to carry yet, because he was like, hey Bethany, you have grace for today. This is the day that I've given you. I will give you strength for today. You don't need all the strength for the future, because that's not the reality yet, and you don't know what the future holds, and you don't need to worry about something that may never happen. And if that day does come, I'll give you the grace and the strength to handle it.
Have you ever heard of the blog Biblical Gender Roles? No. Do you want to link it? Maybe I'll take a look.
I still struggle, not with that particular singleness, obviously, but in other areas of life, projecting things into my future and trying to carry the whole burden of them now. And so for me, that was something I really had to work through. And some of the things that helped me the most, one was looking up to other godly women who I saw, who were really thriving in their singleness and who were in a season where I thought, if I'm ever that age and single, that would be the worst. But then I would look ahead and see these older godly women who were single and they were thriving. And so I thought, if God can give them the grace and the strength to thrive as a single, surely he can do that for me. One in particular was Nancy DeMoss, who is now Nancy DeMoss Wolgemuth, but if you don't know her, she was single for most of her life, and she was just an incredibly godly example of a single woman approaching her older years who was thriving and serving God, and just such a beautiful...
Okay, so I just got sent this biblical gender roles. So we have a bald, presumably dad, with, oh god, look at those Robin Williams arms. Holy shit. He's like turning into... I was gonna say Teen Wolf. He's turning into Teen Wolf's dad. And this showing this male child how to check oil. And then there's a wedding photo, and then we have a woman and her daughters making pancakes. Of course, the implication being that these little girls shouldn't be over here, and this mom shouldn't be teaching the kids how to check their oil, despite the fact that women operate motor vehicles and should know how to check their oil. Anyway, let's see what articles they have. Should a father give up his career for his children? Oh god, this is gonna be bad, isn't it? Quote, how does a father provide for his children when his ex-wife abandoned him? She returned to live with her mother. Abandoned him. That's a weird way of talking about divorce. Like, there's entirely valid reasons for divorce. She returned to live with her mother. She took the kids without the father's consent. Both the children and husband were deceived. She did not leave her parents and cleave to her husband, who moved the family, so he could best provide for his family. She didn't like moving from her mother and returned to her, thus abandoning and taking the children. This is not a scenario that basically has ever happened. If she's leaving her husband with her children, it's probably because he was either abusive or an asshole, or the marriage just didn't work and they need to go through divorce proceedings. Like, what? Where is this woman who's like, I don't know, I just don't like being, I'm not feeling it, I'm gonna go live with my parents. That's not a thing that happens. At least not enough to warrant writing an article about it. Talperion Bloomed, thank you for following. This sounds like Walter White's blog. Yeah, it does. Oh god, I accidentally opened Microsoft Edge. Fuck that. My question is, does he pick up his stable career and leave his job, which provides for his children, to find employment near his children? He's struggling because he can better provide in an area where affluent jobs are abundant, whereas if he returns to the area where his children, he is forced to find employment well below his earning potential in very rural America. What does God want the father to do? Is it more important for the father to be present in the children's lives, or more critical for him to be the provider for his children? I'm guessing this article is going to be on the latter side, considering it's going for more traditional gender roles. Her abandonment turned the family upside down. Again, if she's leaving the marriage, there's probably a very good reason. People don't just leave their marriages just for no fucking reason. Jesus. Now the husband is being forced to make decisions as the leader. Well, you're not the leader anymore, are you? She left your ass. To return to the area where great gainful employment is scarce. There was no abuse, gambling, etc. from the husband. Please advise with relevant scripture so that I do God's will, not mine. I very fucking much doubt. This is coming from the husband, this, like, question. I do not believe what this guy is saying, because no one leaves a marriage with 2 children just because. I guarantee. See, and notice that he says there was no abuse, no gambling. Maybe he was a drinker. Maybe he just checked the fuck out emotionally and decided he didn't need to be present for the relationship. There are 1,000,001 reasons, but just because he didn't smack her around and didn't gamble doesn't necessarily mean the relationship was fine. There's gaping holes in this story that I'd love to have filled in by the wife, but of course we don't have that option, unfortunately. This comment was recently sent to me by a man calling himself Darren. The sad reality of a post-feminist world. Oh, God. Oh, no, no-fault divorce is a thing. What do we do? I don't know, maybe have a good relationship with your significant other? It's a shame. Baja says, Jesus, it smells like your roommate is cooking cat puke. Maybe they're making tacos, and you probably don't like the smell of that being vegan. Oh no. The blogger writes about how you can't RAPE your wife because she is your property, so that might be part of it. Oh no. Yikerinos. The sad reality of a post-feminist world is that the scales are massively tilted towards women. Oh no. Family courts do side with women more often. This is not a product of feminism. Quite the opposite. This is a product of we seeing women as the primary caregivers for children. Therefore, courts, which are often staffed by older white dudes, not always, but these stereotypes permeate all of society, not just boomers. We basically deem that women are almost always better for the children than the father, which isn't always the case, but that's a problem feminism could solve, not one caused by it, right? Our modern society no longer recognizes a man's God-given ownership over his wife and children. You're fucking goddamn right it doesn't. You do not own your wife and your children. Fuck you. What the fuck? So in this sin-cursed and upside-down world, what is a Christian man to do? Below is my answer to Darren and the other good men who face this type of wicked situation. Considering Darren is on this website that advocates for ownership of your wife, I'm guessing there was a lot wrong with that relationship. What a shock. Should you give up your career for your children? The first thing you need to do is focus on why God created you. The purpose for your creation as a male human being is shown in the scripture below. Oh God, here we go. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of the man. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman is of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. Fucking gross. 1 Corinthians 11, 7-9, the King James Version. You were created by God to image him, thereby bring him glory. Your masculine human nature is meant to picture God's nature, and one of the ways you image God is in your career. What the fuck? A man's career is... That's the weird thing to me, too. Wouldn't women fall more in line with the traditional gender roles with what God did than men? Because God, like, created everything. He's the creator. And the stereotypical view of, like, gender roles for men and women is that, like, men are doers, but women are creators. They create life. They create things in their womb and then nurture them. That sounds more like the Christian God than a man's typical roles would be, unless you're talking about the murder aspects. That sounds a little more traditional masculine roles to me, but hey, whatever. God, does God have a penis, by the way? Because if he's a dude, he's got to have a dick, right? According to these people? Because they're like, you know, super Christian. God created me to be gay, fuck shit up, do photography, and science shit up, says Baja Blast. Fuck yeah. A man's career is a defining aspect of his masculinity. Your competitiveness and your desire to make your mark on the world in your career is a part of the masculine image of God within you. The Bible says the following things about a man and his work. Man goeth forth unto his work and to his labor until the evening. Psalm 104:23. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. Psalm 22:29. Behold that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor. Then he taketh unto the sun all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion. Ecclesiastes 5:18. I'm gonna skip the other ones. A man's career is a defining... It does smell like tacos. I think they're making tacos. A man's career is a defining aspect of who he is as a man. Hear that, men? You are defined by what you do. You flipping burgers? You're a burger flipper. You selling insurance? You're an insurance seller, and that's core to who you are as a person. That is why the first thing men ask each other is, what do you do for a living? Or because small talk is kind of annoying and difficult, and you gotta have something to say, and most people have a job, so it makes sense to lead with that. Usually it's what people spend their days doing. People also ask, like, what's your favorite TV show? Or whatever, you know. Our careers as men define us. They give us something to strive for, something to be diligent in and compete in, but they also give us the ability to do something else that is crucial for us as men. Our careers give us the ability to provide for our families. Okay, but what if they don't need to be provided for? What if your wife also provides, right? Smells like dead mice. I don't know about that. No wonder they think Bad Dragon is owned by Satan, showing up God every day. I know a couple times I've been laid off from my job were some of the most miserable times in my life. As men, it hurts us to our core when we cannot properly provide for our families, and that is by God's design so that we are driven in this area. Our provision as men for our wives and our children pictures God's provision as a husband and to his wife, and as a father to his children as seen in the following scriptures. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church. Or what is there of you, whom if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them to ask of him? Mark 7, 9 through 12. Thank you, oh boy. Thank you. Oh, Cupcake Chaos for continuing your subscription. I appreciate that. It is not the man who is called to be a keeper at home, but rather the woman. It is not your place as a man to spend the vast majority of your time in your home or with your children. God has given that role to women, and then a bunch of verses that back that up, which is disgusting. Men, you should spend time with your children. Be a parent. You're both parents. I'm speaking to the choir here because you're all here listening to me, but holy crap, this mentality is destructive. My dad, on top of being an angry, vindictive drunkard, narcissist, he's a real bad dude. On top of that, it really seems like he felt his entire responsibility as a parent was to make sure the bills were paid, and as long as that was done, he wanted everyone to leave him the fuck alone so he could go downstairs and drink. And that's not a healthy attitude to have. He's made it clear to me several times. I don't talk to him. I haven't talked to him in years. But he had made it clear to me upon several occasions that he didn't really want kids whatsoever. My mom did, and he acquiesced as long as she did everything. So people like this, it's incredibly fucking unhealthy. If you have a kid, you're their parent. You need to parent them. You need to love them. You need to not be a monster. It's still your job, even if you have a penis. Conclusion. Darren, you can still be a presence and have a relationship with your children without physically being there all the time with them. I've known some men in your same situation. Considering he frequents this website, they will be better off without him, most likely. Still. The wife took the kids back to the home state, and the father could not leave the state he was in, or they would all be impoverished. So these men see their kids for 4 weeks in the summer and fly to see them a few times in between, like around Christmas and other holidays. But here's the important part. While they are not physically with their children, they are regularly, multiple times a week, calling them on the phone and doing video calls with them. And in this way, they're able to talk to their children about their daily lives and pour spiritual advice into their lives. They also regularly send their children gifts and make sure they're properly provided for. For mothers, the quality of time with their children is crucial. For mothers, the quantity of time in their children's life is crucial, especially at a young age. Oh my goodness. Like, hey, there are single mothers out there, and that's great, and that's fine, and people can be raised by one parent. But a kid knowing that they have another parent out there that just isn't engaging with them or can't for some reason, kids don't necessarily understand bills. And it's a shame, but it's true. They don't necessarily understand why their parent is so far away and it seems like they don't want to spend time with them. Kids like to spend time with their parents, assuming that they're not abusive. Jeez. But for fathers, it's not the quantity, but rather the quality of time spent with their children that is so crucial. Why not both? Why is it not both? Scripture tells us in 1 Corinthians 11:9, neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. And in Psalms 127:3, we read, lo, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb, is his reward. You as a male human being were not made for your wife or your children. You were made for God to bring him glory by imagining him with your life. Ew. So the answer to your dilemma is you continue in your career where you are while at the same time using all your available resources to have as much presence as possible, even if virtual, in the lives of your children. Ugh. This website's fucking gross. Let's continue to see what else they got going on here. Children are the fruit of the loom. You heard it here first. Whoopsie. biblicalsexology.com. I'm happy to announce that a project I have had in the works for a couple of months now has finally come to fruition. I've launched a new spin-off blog called biblicalsexology.com. It's still, of course, a work in progress. I already started migrating several articles from this site over to the new site and posting people from my older articles on sex to that new site. Some of my older articles I've edited a bit, while others I have rewritten completely. It also has several brand new articles as well. Oh, geez. Let me see. I imagine there's no, considering it's biblical sexology, there's no, like, graphic imagery. Let's see. Why did God make sex? What should we want from sex? Sexual fantasy and masturbation. Yes, let us read. Sexual arousal and fantasy are not sin, but presumably they're going to say masturbation is. Let's take a read, shall we? In Matthew 5:27 and 28, Jesus said, "Ye have heard it said that said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh unto a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid?" Matthew 5:27-28 and Job 31:1 have formed the basis for a particular doctrine that has been taught by churches for centuries, going back to the apostolic church. The church has taught that these two passages of the Bible forbid any thoughts of sex prior to marriage. In other words, single people, including young teens, are sinning each and every time they have a sexual fantasy. Young boys are sinning when they take pleasure in seeing a woman's cleavage or the small of their back exposed or any other part of their bodies. Teens and single adults are wrong for masturbating and dwelling on any sexual thoughts before marriage. This is what the church has thought that these passages mean. Oh, good. Are they actually going to be, like, fine with masturbation? I'm shocked. I'm shocked, I tell you. Well, my friends, I'm here to tell you that the church has been wrong for centuries on this doctrine. Now, my fellow Protestants would not struggle with the possibility that the church could be wrong on any doctrine it teaches, because, after all, the Protestant Reformation was all about the church's need to reform its doctrines, which were not based upon the Bible. Apparently, you haven't many evangelical Christians who are Protestant. My Catholic friends, on the other hand, will have a greater struggle with this concept that some doctrines of the early church could have been faulty. The doctrine that any sexual thought of fantasy whatsoever before marriage is sinful is found nowhere in the Bible. Furthermore, the doctrine taught by the church that masturbation is sinful and all sexual pleasure is reserved for marriage is also found nowhere in the Bible. Well, that's good. I'm glad they didn't say you shouldn't masturbate. What about Hebrews 13:4? Okay. They're not anti-sex. What's this Stone Toss? Watch your head. What is Stone Toss? Stone Toss is an independently published webcomic covering current events, American politics, and pop culture. Someone told me this is like a mask-off Nazi, basically. Apparently. Who are you? I'm an independent cartoonist. Why do you make this comic? I've always enjoyed entertaining people with something I made and wanted to continue. That was through this comic. Before Stone Toss, I liked making and sharing silly self-made memes on image boards. Here's one example. I'm not going to click on that. As is the nature of image boards, most of the artwork is lost to history. I decided to make a comic brand in order to preserve and share art better. Are you an evil Nazi? Surprisingly, I am not actually a 90-year-old member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party that started a webcomic. Wow, got 'em. As if people don't know what we're saying when we call someone a Nazi, you fucking idiot. Neo-Nazis exist. Additionally, I'm not a National Socialist, fascist, alt-right, or any kind of supremacist. My crime may be worst, however. I make transgressive art. Oh, Christ, what are this idiot's comics about? In my defense, cartooning has a long tradition of slaying sacred cows. My work is similar to those already featured in Charlie Hebdo, the New York Times, and shown on Family Guy, all famous non-Nazis. Still, I don't know what's worse, being compared to a Nazi or Family Guy. Furthermore, my work is also guilty of promoting freedom of speech, anti-war, private gun ownership, bodily autonomy. Let's see, freedom of speech, what's this? Alright, let's take a look. Oh, God, no! Of course they made the thief a black guy. Jesus Christ. We know who controls the institutions, media, banks, government, courts. Who does? Straight white men who... Oh, no! This is straight up, like, Jewish question anti-Semitic shit. What the fuck? This guy's a monster. I'm not sure this is gonna work. Why is that? I don't get what they're trying to say with this one. Abolish the police. Well then, racist ex-cop, I guess you're free to go? That's not how abolishing the police works? It doesn't mean you stop the criminal justice system altogether? All lives matter. How can you say that while so many black people are killed by the police? Oh my goodness, this guy's a monster. And that's all I can take of him today. Holy fuck. What a piece of shit. Jesus. Ugh. What's Sargon up to? It was in Minecraft? That's the whole joke? Violence in Minecraft, you know. Yeah, he seems like a literal Nazi, but hey, whatever. Oh, Christ. We have, why do SJWs try to normalize pedophilia? Not a thing. And do white lives matter too? Christ almighty. What are you doing, Akkad? Why, Sargon? Why have you done this?
Do white lives matter?
So let's nip this in the bud right now. I've talked about this before. It's been talked about to death. At this point, everyone knows this. When we say Black Lives Matter, we aren't saying other people's lives don't matter. What we're saying is that under the current zeitgeist, black lives are not considered as valuable as white lives, especially in the eyes of systems like the policing that we have in this country. Black people are killed at a much higher rate. They're put in jail for longer sentences for the same crimes. Their healthcare needs aren't as attended to. All these things are issues for everyone, but we're talking about specifically the fact that it seems to impact the black community more than other communities. That's why it's specifically Black Lives Matter, right? Okay.
2. That's the question that has been raised by a banner, as you can see, flying above a football match yesterday that says White Lives Matter Burnley. This was a football match between Burnley and Manchester United, and the incident occurred just minutes after both sets of players and match officials had taken a knee in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. So, it's being seen as some kind of contradiction.
Correct. Because you know what you're doing, Sargon. I know for a fact this has been explained to you. And yet you continue to do it. Which means you know it's an antagonism. Because when people say Black Lives Matter, we're talking about the fact that systematic injustices are being perpetrated against the black community every fucking day. And then you say, well, all lives matter. You're basically saying you just don't want to address the fact that black people are being systematically targeted by people in power, in this case, the police. Right? This is a thing. This is a thing. Everyone knows this. So when you say, well, white lives matter, you're basically saying, in a way that you don't have to actually admit it, that you're saying, I don't care about the fact that black people are being killed more than white people in terms of rate, right? It's not sly. You're not fooling anyone. You're not like, oh, he. We just say all lives matter or white lives matter and you can't say anything because he. We know what we mean, but no. Everyone knows what you're doing, jackass. Everyone knows you're just trying to be a person who's against Black Lives Matter, but you know you can't say Black Lives don't matter because, of course, everyone would rightfully be like, fuck you, fuck off, Nazi. So, instead, you do this pseudo-fucking egalitarian, oh, but actually all lives matter dog whistling in order to try and get away with your shitty opinion. It's ridiculous. You're a coward. You're a fucking coward. Say what you mean. If you don't think Black Lives Matter, say that so we can have the discussion. But you're not, because you're a fucking coward. Black Lives Matter, by the way.
And I think that we need to talk about this, because I don't think that it is a contradiction, unless, of course, Black Lives Matter is something that must never be challenged. When you say all lives matter, people usually respond with, yes, and that's why Black Lives Matter.
Correct! You've had this explained to you!
As if Black Lives Matter is a subset of all lives matter. And
Correct! Correct!
I can agree with that. Personally, I can't stand racializing issues like this.
Okay, but it is a racial issue because people are being targeted based upon their race. Right? You have to deal with that. It would be like before the Civil Rights Movement, or like before the Civil Rights Act was passed, being like, well, we could pass this Civil Rights Act to try and make sure black people are not discriminated against for employment and all kinds of other things. But I don't want to make this a racial issue. It's already a racial issue, Sargon. It's there. It's already there. So now the onus is on us to do something about that and have reforms that try and fix the issue that's already in place. You don't get to just ignore the problem. It'd be like if a building was on fire and someone was like, get the fire extinguisher. And Sargon goes, well, I don't know if I want to make this issue about fire. Really, the smoke is probably what's going to kill us. Like, fucking Sargon, still, put the fire out. Oh, stop making this a fire issue. Fuck you.
If we're going to talk about the importance of a person's life, then why do we have to bring their race into it? I mean, their life is valuable no matter what the race is, right? Well, not necessarily, because if we say that Black Lives Matter is a property of all lives matter,
thank you, Anthony,
a subset
non-applicable
of it,
for following,
then surely white lives matter must also be a subset of all lives matter.
Sure. But the issue is that white people are not being systematically targeted by the police in the same way the African American community in the United States has been. Cop violence and cop use of force is an issue across the board. We've seen just in the past few months during the protests, white people have been fucked up by the police too. Remember that old white dude who got pushed over by the police and he fell down and cracked his skull and blood started coming out of his ear? He was a white guy. Black people are not the only victims of police violence, but they are disproportionately targeted by it, right? often because officers know they can get away with it. Because, as a society, unfortunately, we have an issue with seeing that Black Lives Matter, which they do. So that is what we're talking about in the whole hashtag Black Lives Matter movement, right? We're trying to get black people's lives in terms of social value up to parity with other people, and at that point we can then deal with issues of systematic police violence all on the same page, and you can do your whatever all lives matter shit. But it's not the case right now. It's an issue that mainly targets African American communities. Okay? So that is why that is the viewpoint from which we are tackling this currently. But again, police violence is an issue. Don't assume because you're white that the cops aren't gonna fuck you up, because they will.
It's a particular subcategory alongside Black Lives Matter and Brown Lives Matter and whatever other colour of race that we want to use for Lives Matter, because all lives matter if you come from that framework. Which, I mean, I would be an All Lives Matter person, but I wouldn't be a white or Black Lives Matter person. I think these are both poor formulations.
Oh, Sargon, so are you going to go and march with the protesters then? Since you think all lives matter and black lives aren't being considered as valuable these days, are you going to go out and march with the protesters, or are you going to make fun of the protesters? Because you actually don't think black lives matter, because you don't think all lives matter.
But that still doesn't change the fact that if you are but through the world through a racial lens and you think Black Lives Matter, that's important, then what is the reason that you would say that that white lives matter isn't true?
No one's saying it isn't true. We're saying that it's a complete non sequitur to the issue that is at hand, that being that black communities are disproportionately targeted by systematic police violence. That's the issue. Again, I've used this example before, but it's like we're all at Thanksgiving dinner, and everyone has gotten food, except for Bob. And Bob goes, Bob's hungry. Bob deserves food. And you go, everyone deserves food, Bob. And Bob's sitting there starving, with no food. And he again goes, excuse me, Bob deserves food. And you go, everyone deserves food, Bob, and you put more on your plate. The issue is that we're trying to talk about an issue where black people, again, and I'll repeat this to the ends of the fucking earth, are systematically targeted by police violence within their communities. And you're saying, but what about everyone else? Well, that's not the issue we're talking about. You're just trying to change the subject.
What was the reason that you would use? Because it seems to me that exactly the same formulation would apply to White Lives Matter as is formulated by Black Lives Matter, and these are actually not in contradiction unless Black...
Goddamn. The Rickrolls aren't funny at this point, right?
Black Lives Matter is not a subset of All Lives Matter. Unless Black Lives Matter is a negation of All Lives Matter. Say, no, not All Lives Matter. Only Black Lives Matter.
Fuck off! No! That is not what Black Lives Matter is! You fucking shitbag.
And that's the place where I think Black Lives Matter is actually coming from, and I'll show you about why I think that in this video. But anyway, of course, the usual hysteria about the phrase White Lives Matter filled the internet. We shouldn't ignore it, we shouldn't ignore it. Well, don't worry, they're not. I mean, they've already condemned it. They've already said, well, I mean, this is motivated by racism and a denial of equal rights. This is awful. This is something that Burnley Football Club is condemning. As if Burnley Football Club... What do you know about any of this stuff? The answer's nothing, isn't it?
Sargon, I don't even understand why you're commenting on something. Sargon regularly will comment, obviously, the specific thing he's talking about. Holy shit. Nice. Good for Jesus. What a transition. Anyway, Sargon, more or less, and I don't know about other countries and the potential racial disparities going on there. I don't know what the racial issues are in the UK as relative to the US. But Sargon talks about American political issues all the time, and I don't know why the fuck he would care. He's British. I don't talk about UK politics typically because, for one thing, I don't live there. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't live in the culture. I don't understand it beyond what I see on fucking Doctor Who and Inside Number 9, which isn't a lot. All I know is you got jammy Dodgers and aliens invading all the time. Those are the two things I know about the UK. But Sargon, why do you care? Why do you care about the political issues going on within the United States, which often, unfortunately, due to the history of the United States, are incredibly racially charged, something that you either, A, are incapable of understanding because of your inability to connect with those issues because you weren't raised here, you've never lived here at length in an actual, like, non-wealthy person capacity because you're a pretty rich dude. You have a net worth of almost $1 million, which is pretty fucking good. And secondly, you're intentionally being obtuse as to try and push your weird racist rhetoric. Neither is very good. Either you're ignorant and talking from a place of ignorance, or you're making bad faith arguments, and you know this, but you want to push this agenda, which is not good either.
The answer is absolutely nothing. Nobody needs you to condemn anything. But you allowed yourselves to be politicized, and here's the back.
Yeah, I googled it a while back. Sargon's worth almost $1 million in net worth, which would include like stuff like mortgages for his house. So he's like, grifter's gonna grift. He wouldn't be a grifter if it didn't make him money.
Here are the underrepresented people saying, hey, we want representation, and we'll pay for it if required. And apparently that is some kind of criminal act. For some reason, there's going to be a police investigation.
Random
into
invite
this.
with 100
I
bits.
would love to know
Just
what
want to
crime
say
they've
Sargon
committed.
is a complete and utter
Presumably,
moron.
it's the crime.
That's the thing. I don't think he is. I think Sargon's many things. I don't think he's stupid. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he uses rhetoric as a tool, as a blunt instrument, without any care as to what it does to other people. I think he knows he makes a lot of money by being this far-right reactionary sack of shit, and he wants to make that money. And on top of that, he also probably does harbor some pretty fucked up, backwards, racist views on people, but he understands that if he just comes out and outright says that, then he's going to get banned from YouTube and everywhere else. So, instead, he decides on this sort of middling rhetoric that, of course, gestures in the direction of racism and kind of gets to the same ends as his racist viewpoints, but he knows, of course, he'll get banned for saying it outright, so he does this mask-on bullshit where he's like, oh, I don't dislike Black Lives Matter, I just want to talk about white lives. Like, this is all out of the alt-right playbook. This is shit Richard Spencer pioneered by saying, like, hey, wearing the swastikas and doing, German Hitler salutes, not a good look. What you need to do is put a nice face on it, try and be a little more political in your speech in the sense that you don't reveal exactly what your intentions are, as long as the end result of your speech is effectively the same. So, it's very fucked up. Random invite with 50 bits. To be fair, that's a good point. He might know exactly what he's doing. I think he is. I think Sargon is many things. I don't think he's an idiot. As much as I might get angry at him and be like, you fucking idiot, because I do that, he's not stupid. He knows what he's doing.
Crime of racism, right? They're going to claim that this is a racist crime.
Thank you, Razor Beast, for continuing your subscription.
In some way. But, again, if Black Lives Matter is a subset of All Lives Matter, then White Lives Matter must also be a subset. Otherwise, what logical framework are you using? Again, it seems to be a way of actually trying to deny equal rights, because there are victims, white victims, of brown and black people.
Oh my goodness.
And these people are routinely ignored and suppressed by the establishment as it is, by the media, by the police, by the politicians. It's very difficult to get them to actually do something about the victims of multiculturalism.
Oh my god, the victims of multiculturalism. I went to try and go down to my local restaurant to get a mayonnaise and mac and cheese sandwich, and all they had it had been replaced by a curry restaurant. Oh, My victimhood! Shut up, Sargon. Victims of multiculturalism. This is literally like ethno-nationalist talking points. He's getting worse. He's getting more. He's letting the mask slip. Not gonna end well for you, Sargon.
But no one wants to talk about that, so let's carry on. Anyway, the mad lad who arranged this White Lives Matter banner has refused to apologise. Well done. They're going to absolutely destroy this man now, a guy called Jake Heppel.
Quite possibly. He might lose his job. That shit happens all the time. Companies don't want to be associated with racist fucks. And it's very clear that that's what this sign is supposed to be. It's a dog whistle, Sargon. You know, that thing that you pretend doesn't exist.
But, well done that man. Never bend the knee. Ever. It doesn't matter what they do to you. What matters is that they bend your will. And that's what bending the knee is. It's breaking your will to resist them. And if you refuse to bend the knee...
Sargon, it's a form of protest against police violence. Specifically, police violence against minority populations because they are disproportionately affected by police violence. Glad we had this talk.
Then no matter what they do to you, they will still have not broken you. But anyway, Jake said on his Facebook page, I'd like to take this time to apologise to absolutely fucking nobody. It's apparently racist to say White Lives Matter the day after 3 white people got murdered in a park in Reading. But we've all seen this on TV as all we've seen on TV is Black Lives Matter after George Floyd got murdered.
Okay, a lot of people get murdered all the time for all kinds of reasons. Black Lives Matter isn't specifically about random murders. It's about the systematic murder of the people within the black community by the police. By the people who are supposed to be upholding the laws and protecting citizens, right? That's the issue.
What a mad world we live in. Well, that's actually a really great point and really well made, because it does kind of appear that if a person of colour murders 3 white people in a park, everyone's like, oh, that's sad, but nothing further needs to be said. No.
That's not a systematic problem, Carl. It's not a systematic problem that can be addressed. And by the way, if you want to talk about just crime and murder, then you need to talk about how, again, and you're not going to like this, Carl, how crime is often indicative of poverty, and communities, minority communities, at least in the US, I'd imagine the same works in the UK, have been, again, generationally disadvantaged and been imprisoned at a higher rate. Over-policing has created a lot of single-parent homes that cause poverty, and due to that poverty, the crime rate spikes. And that's a creation, again, of systematic problems against people of color. You're not gonna like to hear that, but it is the case.
More conversation, no more outrage. It doesn't matter how many terror attacks, it doesn't matter how much interracial violence, it doesn't matter about the casualties on the white side of the tally. It only matters on the casualties on the people of colour side of the tally, because that's the way these movements work. Now, this guy was apparently featured with Tommy Robinson on his page, so I mean, now you know that he's a racist. I'm just joking. I don't think Tommy Robinson is a racist. But this led to him having his Facebook page deactivated. Good news. But anyway, let's talk about the Reading stabbing attack, actually, because it turns out that 2 of the victims have been named so far, and they're both gay. I mean, they're both white, they're both gay, they both wanted equality, and...
Hold on. I just got sent this. Atheists get paid by secret authorities to discredit religions. It's disgusting. This is a shame. Shame on yourselves. Most atheists are rich. Oh god, I wish that was the case. Yeah, I got this dude banned. This was the dude, by the way, who was on Twitter like a week or so ago threatening to kill protesters. So I got him banned from Twitter. Hip hip hooray. I would like my atheist check, though. Please George Soros, send it immediately. Anthony Non-Applicable says, hey, Hannah, sorry to go off topic, but I used to work with a guy who trafficked in almost identical language to that of Hans Wormhat, only instead of free Martins, is what he said. Or whatever the hell he said. My coworker would call them shape-shifting Khazarian Jews, really paranoid and delusional stuff. I can tell you he was not grifting. He even saved some of the insane texts he would send me. I finally snapped and called him a Nazi because somehow he kept bringing up every conspiracy theory and blaming Jewish people. Yeah, I don't know. Some of these people I think legit just have like paranoid schizophrenia, and they unfortunately fall victim to like this alt-right Nazi JQ stuff, and it funnels them into that, and it's a real shame. I wish so many conspiracies weren't like 6 feet deep in this like anti-Semitism and racism, because talking about conspiracy theories can be a lot of fun. Even though I don't believe most of them, like, it can be fun to hear someone talk about some crazy stuff for a little bit, but unfortunately it gets bogged down in just all this racist anti-Semitic bullshit. It's crazy. Super duper cow. This seems really dog whistly. Like, this whole video, like, he wants white people to be outraged and go after other people instead of solving problems that affect us all. Yeah, oh yeah. Yep.
Presumably they would have been pro-diversity, and the reason that the diversity decided that today,
like the Temple OS guy, very much so,
is a bad day and that this was acceptable, unironically, was apparently because the UK is a racist country, at least according to the attacker's brother, who says this.
Alaskan
he says he's not a
Bearbait,
terrorist
thanks for following.
and was arrested because the UK is racist. Right. The guy who stabbed to death 3 people and injured a bunch more has been arrested because the UK is racist. Do we agree? Does anyone agree with that? Does anyone in the mainstream media agree with that?
Okay, but they're literally just reporting on what the brother said. Okay? That has nothing to do with what the general populace is saying. And again, you're getting this from the Daily Mail, who ran this specifically to race bait shitbags like you. Stop reading the Daily Mail, Carl. Please. They're shit. Ashley Luna, thank you for following.
Any of the politicians agree with that? Labour, do you agree with that? SNP, do you agree with that? Do you agree that the UK is racist and therefore it justifies people of colour just picking up knives and randomly stabbing white people?
What the fuck? Literally no one said that. This is the worst straw man. Oh, but Carl, muy logical Carl, would never stoop to a straw man argument because he is the daddy of logic. Fuck off, Carl.
Does anyone think that's justified? I mean, let's fuck England. The man claiming to be terror attack suspect's brother. Really, fuck England. Surely that means also fuck the English.
Oh my god, Carl. You understand that you can disagree? And again, I don't know anything about this stabbing that happened. I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to comment on it because, unlike Carl, I like to know about the things I'm talking about before I open my mouth and start blabbing about them. But this is reporting on what the brother of the suspect said. This has nothing to do with general sentiment, and also claiming that because he says fuck the UK, it also means fuck the English, when people can have issues with with systems within their country and how their country is set up without hating the people within it. There are plenty of things I hate about the US. I hate our privatized healthcare system. I hate evangelicals. I hate racists in the South who really, really dislike, or who really, really love to promote, like, Confederate bullshit. But that doesn't mean I hate Americans, right?
But I love this. He's defending himself from racism in the UK. Like, what? I mean, defending himself from what? Gays? Is this a Muslim thing where an Abrahamic religion?
ACLU is fighting with Congress to try and make it a state. Yeah. I think it's complicated because the entire reason they made Washington, D.C. its own thing was to keep any one state from having the nation's capital within it because it would grant them undue power, theoretically speaking. I think the bigger issue is having protectorates like the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, stuff like that, Puerto Rico, making those states. But, hey, if they make D.C. a state, great, fine. We can get 2 extra seats in the Senate, probably. That'd be nice.
Thing where they like to persecute gays. Is that what?
Soily1 says, I remember when Sargon joined UKIP. Yeah, and then he fucking tanked that year's campaign for them with his shitty RAPE comments. Yeah, good times.
What's happening here? And how far does this go? Because I get the feeling that it doesn't stop at anywhere reasonable, does it? I mean, it might even go as far as to, like, finding 19th century imagery, Christian imagery, of St. Michael standing on the devil, defeating Satan, and say, wait a minute, that looks a lot like what happened to George Floyd, hurdy-hurdy-hur. What are you talking about?
Is Sargon literally getting one of those articles where, like, 1 or 2 idiots on Twitter get mad about something and then they write a whole article about it? This happens all the time, by the way. If you look at any article that's like, blank gets mad about blank, usually if you look at the article half the time, it's like a source of, like, 1 or 2 people on Twitter who said something stupid about it. This even happened with, like, Rick and Morty last season. They made, like, a 9/11 joke, which was kind of funny. I like Rick and Morty, although I find some of the fans fucking insufferable. But it was this article, it was like, Rick and Morty fans are livid about this 9/11 joke, and the source was like 1 person on Twitter who got mad about it. Very stupid.
The devil has wings and a serpent's body. Like, and he's grey. He's not even black, he's grey. Presumably because that looks more negative compared to the shining brightness of the Archangel Michael there. Like, this is a kind of symbol of St. George and the Dragon done by St. Michael and Satan. Like, this has nothing to do with black people, fundamentally, or white people. It's got nothing to do with people. It's angels and devils fighting.
Correct. You've put more energy into this article than the person who wrote it, most likely. Again, propping up these straw men to knock them down as if this is your enemy's greatest point to make. Oh, look at this mural. No one cares. No one cares, except for the 1 or 2 people on Twitter they pulled whatever this article from. And you've decided that this represents people you disagree with politically, instead of actually addressing the points that the Black Lives Matter movement is making about systematic injustices within the black community.
You lunatics.
Because you know you'd lose that argument, Carl. Or at the very least, you'd come off as a huge piece of shit for arguing that you don't care.
But no, take it down. That's what this is. Take it down. I mean, look at the way they frame this, right? The original image may have been St. Michael slaying Satan, but the figure has no horns or tail and is clearly a black man. What? He has a tail. You can see the tail at the back there. Okay, he doesn't have horns. Oh, sorry, this depiction of the devil isn't good enough. So if we draw horns on there, are you going to be like, okay, well, now he has horns in the tail, so now he doesn't look like George Floyd.
All right, I'm going to skip his straw man.
Of course, Piers Morgan, the man who got humiliated by a literal communist on his show, has no idea about any of this. He doesn't understand how he is being subverted by communists. Neither does Suzanne Reid, I think her name is. And listening to them trying to explain why Black Lives Matter is noble and good and heroic, and White Lives Matter is evil and racist and bad, is genuinely amazing. Listen to this clip.
Interesting for anyone who's confused about why that banner causes offence. Because nobody is saying white lives don't matter, but it...
Correct! Sargon, it's being told to you right now and you still don't get it.
Completely misses the point of the Black Lives Matter movement. So Kick It Out, which is English football's anti-racism charity, said that the banner gravely misunderstands the Black Lives Matter initiative. And the organiser's chair, Sanjay Bandari, explains it like this. The point of Black Lives Matter is not to diminish the importance of other people's lives. It is to highlight that black people are being denied certain human rights simply by virtue of the colour of their skin.
Right. All of this is reasonable. What do you find objectionable about this, Sargon?
It's a...
Then why...
for greater equality for all in football.
Then why is it that it appears that that is actually the case?
Because you're incredibly obtuse and refuse to listen to people when they actually explain to you what Black Lives Matter means?
It is actually a negation of the term White Lives Matter.
No, it's not. Sargon. No one is saying white people don't matter. What we're saying is that there's a disparity between what society values as a white life and a black life. So we say Black Lives Matter to try and put people on parity with one another. Okay?
Again, I wouldn't choose a racial formulation, but since you have, and decided that this was the hill you were going...
Found this on a Papa John's parody account. Hold on, let me click it. We're firing up the ovens for July. We've set an audacious goal to cook 6 million pizzas in 31 days. Do you think we can make it with the number of ovens and kit? Oh no! I just got it. It's a Nick Fuentes cookie argument. Yikerinos.
...going to die on, even though the statistics in this country do not back up what has been said there at all. As the BBC said, white people are 25% more likely to die in police custody than black people in this country. Then,
I assume you're looking at overall and not rates. Again, you have to actually look at the rate of non-white people versus the rate of white people, because in any population where there are more of one specific group of people, in this case in America, white, or in the UK, white is the majority population, you're going to have more. But the fact that it's only 25% when there are more than 25% more white people than non-white people tells you that the rate of black people, or people of color in general, is higher, right? I think that's pretty easy to understand, and Sargon understands this. I'm sure he's used rate arguments before when he's talked about things in his favor, but he doesn't feel like making good faith arguments. He wants to win no matter what, whereas someone like me would like to make arguments based on what is the most correct. I'd like to be correct about things. Not that I think I'm right no matter what, but I want to make arguments that are honest about the situation at hand, whereas Sargon and people like him just want to win regardless of whether or not their arguments are sound. It's very depressing.
And why is it being approached as if it is a negation of Black Lives Matter?
Because it is, Sargon. Because as was said in the video you just watched, no one is saying white lives don't matter. No one has said that has had any sort of audience. No one is taking that seriously. If you can find one or two people on Twitter or a video somewhere of someone who's mad who says it, that's not the narrative that's going on within their country of the United States or the UK.
And why is everyone on the Black Lives Matter side trying to negate the idea of White Lives Matter?
Because you're using it as a non sequitur to try and shut people up and ignore the fact that there are systematic issues that the black community in America and the people of color community in the UK are facing, right? It's so you can try and ignore the real issue at hand.
Again, by the same logic, you have to accept White Lives Matter.
What is the cookie argument? It's a stupid thing. Nick Fuentes, who is a literal Nazi and a Holocaust denier, by the way, has this argument where he goes, if I had X number of ovens, I forget what the number is, and I needed to cook 6 million cookies, could I do it? And it's a thinly veiled Holocaust denial parable. It's very stupid. Nick Fuentes is a fucking monster.
Again, by the same logic, you have to accept White Lives Matter if you also accept that Black Lives Matter, because all lives...
Maya is bored with 100 bits. I got my punishment for rickrolling you yesterday by being rickrolled for the first time ever today. So take the bits as a sign of atonement. Nice. Hold on, let me look at the picture in the Discord. The mountainscape is apparently done. Ooh, look at that. Nice, I like it. What did you make this of? Just cardboard? I'm trying to zoom in. I know you guys can't see it, but I'm just taking a look. Let me see if I can put this in the... There we go. Look at that. Nice little... Oh, can you not see it still? Weird. Hold on, let me fix this. Window capture. There we go. Look at that. It's very cool. It's a little D&D thing. Neato.
Lives matter. If that's not the case, then all lives don't matter and only Black Lives Matter, which makes White Lives Matter a negation of Black Lives Matter and not just a parallel interest group. You are the ones...
Okay, but what interest are you exactly pushing for? Because Black Lives Matter has a very specific group of things that they're working on in terms of trying to reduce police violence. What exactly is the complaint of White Lives Matter? What is the complaint? Because it seems like you're just trying to shit on Black Lives Matter, right?
Playing into this. I mean, look, if we framed it like this, nobody is saying that Black lives don't matter, but it completely misses the point of the White Lives Matter movement.
But people are, through their actions. The fact that they're murdered at such a high rate. The fact that they get thrown in jail for longer sentences for the same crimes. These are things that point to the fact that in our society, Black lives do not matter. And we are trying to change that.
Protests gravely misunderstand the White Lives Matter banner. The point of the White Lives Matter movement is not to diminish the importance of other people's lives. It is to highlight that white people are being denied certain human rights because of the color of their skin.
What human rights are white people? I'm a white. Look at me. I'm like a porcelain doll. Never once have I had any rights taken away from me or diminished based on the color of my skin. Fuck off, Sargon. You fucking ass.
It's about equality. You turn around and say, well, what are they being denied? Oh, really? I'm glad you asked, actually. Very, very glad you asked. I mean, how about the Rotherham grooming gang, the victims of grooming gangs? The victims who routinely say that this was a racist attack on us.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
And the perpetrators who say white girls are worthless trash, only suitable to be used as slaves, or some words to that effect. Is that not a racial attack? But it's been covered up by the politically correct establishment, the police and councillors.
Rotherham grooming gang. Let's take a look, shall we? The Rotherham child exploitation scandal consisted of the organized child sex abuse that occurred in the town of Rotherham, South Yorkshire, Northern England from the late 1980s to the 2010s, and the failure of local authorities to act on reports of the abuse throughout most of that period. Researcher Andy Heel, who was hired by local officials and warned them about child exploitation, occurred between 2002 and 2007, has since described it as the biggest child protection scandal in UK history. Evidence of the abuse was first noted in the early 90s when the care home managers investigated reports that children in their care were being picked up by taxi drivers from at least 2001. Multiple reports passed names of alleged perpetrators, several from one family, to the police of Rotherham Council. The first group conviction took place in 2010, where 5 British Pakistani men were convicted of sexual offenses against girls aged 12 to 16. This sounds like an awful thing that happened, Sargon, and it really is, but this is not a systematic, nationwide issue that is affecting most people who are white. I don't even know if this had racial components. If it did, that's unfortunate. But the fact is, this is not the same as the police as a whole in a country of 300-something million people targeting specific communities and killing them at a higher rate. This is a horrible crime that happened. Abso-fucking-lutely. But what does this have to do with, quote, White Lives Matter? It has nothing to do with it.
And no one wants to talk about this, and we're still waiting for the grooming gang report to be released by the Home Office. Like, as if this can't be viewed as racial attacks, then why should anything else be viewed in it?
Sargon, grooming people and using them for sex slavery is already illegal. It's already a thing. They just had to get caught, right? Police, however, get away with killing black people all the time. And because of their immunity, they're allowed to do so. Things are changing sometimes now. We saw the officers get arrested for the George Floyd murder, but still, The other one that happened recently, one of them got fired, but he's not under arrest or anything. They're different issues, Sargon.
Like, and it's still going on. It's still going on. There are still racist gangs of Muslim men.
Oh, God, here we go.
Who are raping and trafficking and abusing English girls because they are English girls. But nobody cares.
Okay, disagree. I guarantee that there are law enforcement working on sex trafficking because everyone agrees that sex trafficking is bad, right? And within the UK, people who are white aren't being looked at and their problems aren't being looked at as, oh, whatever. The same as people of colors, right? Sex trafficking is a fucking awful thing. It's a nightmare, but it's an issue everyone is on the same page about already. You don't need a movement to be like, hey, sex trafficking bad, because everyone already agrees.
And you've got places in the north where this is happening going, well, hang on a second, if we're going to have Black Lives Matter, then okay, fine, white lives also matter, right? And you're going, no, that's a misunderstanding. No, it's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with that. No, it
Correct.
is. It's everything to do with that. And it's everything to do with that because this is being done by communists. You guys are being subverted by communists. Successfully.
I didn't know we had so much power.
So, it seems, in an incredibly compelling way. But fundamentally, that's what's happening.
I also think that it might... I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories. And I think that what we really try to do is build a movement that could be utilized by many, many Black folk.
I am not a Marxist.
I almost want to clip that. If I didn't think Sargon would DMCA me, I swear to God I'd use that audio clip for one of the notification things. I am not a Marxist.
I'm not a fascist. I am a liberal.
You're not a liberal, Sargon. You're not a fucking liberal. Please stop taking that. And please, because I'm a leftist, I fucking... liberals I'm not a big fan of. You're not one of them, though, Sargon. You're on the right. You're pretty fucking far right. You're a far right ideologue. If you want to call that fascism, fine, whatever. If you want to call him alt-right, fine, whatever. But one thing I know he's not is a liberal.
I'm not even a French liberal. I'm an English liberal. I have a very particular moral worldview that is just not shared by the continental collectivists. I don't agree in doing things their way because the point of continental collectivism is to take every individual in a group and turn them into a political actor. Against their will, whether they like it or not. They are now...
Everyone is a political actor already. Everyone has a place within politics because politics is just a study of power structures and how they affect us. We are all political entities. Period.
A pawn on a chessboard where every move has to be calculated with regards to the racial power that it expresses. I'm not interested in viewing the world in terms of racial power.
It's convenient that as a white person you don't have to do that, but the fact is, minorities within both the UK and the US don't have the luxury of not thinking about race because it's something that affects them every single day. And that's something you either, again, choose not to get, Sargon, or genuinely don't. And I don't know which is the worse to be true.
I'm interested in viewing the world in terms of party politics, self-association. I'm not going to be told that because I am white, I have to be this thing, or because someone else is black, they have to be that thing.
That's not what identity politics is. More or less, the idea that you might find yourself politically aligned with others due to similar motivations, similar issues that face you, is a real thing. The fact that you, Sargon, feel the need to just be like, I'm on this team, rah, 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 that's not better, right?
I think they should be able to choose, and I think they should be able to divorce themselves from direct politics if they want, as unwise as that appears to be, because it allows the communists to come in and take over everything from the back.
Sargon, do you even know what communism is? Could you throw out a definition for me? Is it just anyone left of you? Because I swear to fucking God, in your opinion, Margaret Thatcher would be a communist. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
And speaking of communists taking over things, I have to let you know that we have a Spreadshirt store because we got demonetized because we are opposed to communist infiltration, I suppose. And so,
thank fuck. God.
So this shirt that might want to arrive today, it's amazing. The free Hong Kong t-shirt, which says, I think, Communist Bandits, or it might be the other way around, I'm not sure. But the Chinese definitely know a thing or two about Communist Bandits, and so do the poor people of Hong Kong, who are just being taken over by them. Of course, you'll never hear anything about this from Piers Morgan or Susanna. I mean, if they were black, maybe we could, and if the oppressors were white people, maybe we could talk about it. But since the oppressors are Chinese and Chinese, I guess we have nothing to say. Because apparently the communists get a platform on Good Morning Britain, and the liberals are a bunch of racists.
Jesus Christ, Sargon. He's like a self-parody at this point. It's so sad. Sargon, stop. He does live in the 50s. Yeah, a ton of people on the left talked about and continue to talk about Hong Kong. Reddit was nothing but Hong Kong posts for like, and still is. They still have popular subreddits about Hong Kong. What else do we got? Elliot Hulse, dating girls with crazy dads. Oh, God.
Yo, so today I got a great question from one of our friends on Instagram about his girlfriend's parents. He goes on to say, yo, Elliot, I have a question about my girlfriend's parents who took her phone away because we had some messages we shouldn't have had.
Oh, God. How old are you? How old is this person? Because if their parents are taking away their phone, presumably they're a minor. Elliot, please don't give advice to minors. You shouldn't even be giving advice to adults. And
we want to continue our relationship, and I want to apologize to her parents about it, but she says that her dad is crazy, but I want her to get her phone back so we can go back to continue talking like normal. If you have any advice, let me know, and that would mean a lot.
What's up? Yeah, sure. Bumble Homestead, send me a link to that thing, and when it starts, I'll, probably go raid over to it, actually. Been on for almost 3 hours once it starts, so.
No, it was half an hour ago that she sent that.
Oh, is it starting now?
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'll still raid if you send me a link.
A lot to me, so just let me know when you can. So I'm making you a video, dude, here, and the reason why I took your question is because I'm a crazy dad, just like your girlfriend's dad.
Medicated person says Shoe on Head and Armored Skeptic broke up and Shoe deleted her Twitter account. They've been together for a long time, that's surprising.
I don't think that Bumble Homestead is still in chat.
Sure. Did she not leave a link?
No, she just said that it was Pretty Pixel.
Let me see if I can find it.
That's right, capitalistic
Pretty
propaganda.
Pixel. There we go. This is apparently a drag queen D&D going on. That's for charity. Thank you, BGAPGH. So actually, I'm gonna raid you guys over to this because this is some charity drag stream that who sent it? Bumble Homestead. Yeah, they're doing this charity thing for the NAACP. So we're gonna raid you guys over to them. What is the name of this channel? Where is it? Pretty Pixel. Okay. Dungeons and Drag Queens, yeah.
Love you, chat. Hi, Kiki. Okay.
Okay, so thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed the D&D live stream. I'll be back tomorrow for more stuff. So check it out. And I'll see you guys next time. Love y'all.
Night.